Information-fueled,
opinion-driven. This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
8:07, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on into the fourth and final hour of Nashville's Morning News, along with Joan Jones, Johnny B. I'm Dan Mandis. Thank you very much for joining us. We've been talking about the debate for 3 hours. Some of you folks, we're going to have to agree to disagree on Donald Trump's performance, Kamala Harris's performance, and the moderators clearly showing their bias. But I think that there's one thing that we can all agree on here at WTN Nation, and that is that our heroes, our military heroes, are always to be remembered. I want to welcome on in David Corlew from the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. David, always appreciate having you on the show because, you know, when we have you on the show, it's always a reminder about how much our veterans mean to us here at WTN Nation. And tonight, 10 years. This is going to be the 10th annual Charlie Daniels Patriot Awards. And, I mean, this is the 10th year, and it's going to be a great event like it always is, right?
Going to be a party. Dan, and thank you for having me on. It's a really special day, obviously, for the date itself, 9/11, both with the trade towers and then with the Benghazi debacle. But yeah, we're so excited. I read something the other day. I didn't fact check it. I might be wrong, but I read where it was. There's like maybe a less than 30% chance that a foundation can last up to 10 years, and we're so proud of that. Obviously, the first 6 with Charlie, and then these past 4 without him, but with his spirit. So it's going to be a big night. We've got a wonderful cast of characters. We're going to honor 3 generations of the Viggiano family, which were fearless firefighters. John Viggiano, I met in Iraq in 2005 on a speaking engagement, and he had fought all the fires in New York during the 60s when the slumlords buildings were burning down and firemen were dying, and there were protests, and he was the patriarch of the family. He had 2 sons, John and Joe. Both of his sons died in the trade towers, one in one tower, one in the other. Out of those 2 sons, they had 3 sons, and they are all decorated police officers, veterans, and firefighters. So I got
to tell you, David, that is, not to cut you off, but I mean, that is so incredible. I mean, that tells you all you need to know about that family.
Yeah, it's amazing. And Dick Wolf, who did Chicago PD and the Chicago NCS, he does all those programs, and he did a documentary on Joe Viggiano, who died in the trade tower. He was I think at 12 years old, they had went from New Jersey to Florida for vacation. And at 12 years old, Joe Viggiano saved a Cuban family that was drowning. He took a float, went out, saved the entire family at 12 years old. So this guy was born to be a hero, and he died in the trade towers. And now his sons are all heroes themselves. They work every day to keep the community safe.
Well, I got to tell you, I've been to, as you know, and as most folks know, I broadcast live from the event one time. Got to interview some amazing people, and that does remain one of my all-time favorite broadcasts. And putting this event together, is so amazing. But, you know, we are on, it's that date, it's 9/11, especially for people like you and I, of course, and we have the utmost respect and adoration for our heroes in the military. But talk about, as you are so close to the veteran community, what does this date mean for the veterans, especially the ones that joined after 9/11?
Well, and what I did want to mention, and it works well. One of my dearest friends, I spent the evening with him last night, Mark Geist, who is his tag was Oz. He was one of the Benghazi guys on the rooftop that was left there to fight. And it's a day of obviously it's a solemnness of loss. Mark, they were hit by 2 RPGs on that roof. For all practical purposes, he should not be here today. God saved him. He lost multiple people, including our ambassador. So it's a solemn day for some. There's some that obviously are here to celebrate and to honor their brothers, in arms. So it's certainly a day of emotional and spiritual, greatness. We're just surrounded by heroes and angels and the men and women that protect us and from harm's way. Charlie always said it. He said it best. The only 2 things that protect the United States of America is God Almighty and the United States military. And I would add the first responders with that.
Well, Charlie Daniels was correct. And, we're talking about the event tonight. Is it sold out? Are there tickets left? I know that we gave away a couple of pair of tickets earlier, but I think even the tickets that we had to give away were pretty hard to come by.
Yeah, it's definitely sold out. It's our biggest night. I feel like our team has worked really hard, but we've had some longtime supporters, and then because of it being 9/11 and we've got a big contingency of New Yorkers coming down to honor the Viggiano family, and Bernie Carrick, New York Police Commissioner, is hosting that segment. And we have Stormy Warren, we have Oz, we have some great individuals that are going to be there tonight. And
Bernie, so just I don't know if you remember this, David, but when I interviewed Bernie Carrick, he dang near brought me to tears. I don't know if you remember that a couple of years ago. But that entire broadcast, when I was talking to all these folks, all these heroes, it was amazing because they all have incredible stories. On the Newsmaker Hotline, one of my favorite individuals in Middle Tennessee, David Corlew from the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. David, let me ask you, of course, your event is sold out tonight. And we do the commercials. I know Matt Murphy and I both do the commercials talking about the greatness of what you folks do. But in your own words, in a couple of minutes or less, if you could, because we're always short on time, but talk about the challenges of our veterans coming home and how your organization helps them adapt to life back home.
Well, obviously, over the years, it's been 20 years. Think about the young men and women that joined when the trade towers came down. They're retiring out now. It's been 20 years. What we're finding, and 10-year anniversary is a transitional year for us. We're finding that the carnage and the injuries of this time period is generational now. We have children that have seen their own parents take their lives. Suicide, we all know, is a big, big number. Mental wellness is so important. Jobs, trying to help these men come from something that's so much larger than themselves. And the next morning they wake up and they're on the streets and they're regular guys. It's a hard transition for them. And so that's what we're here for, to support the return, the rehabilitation, and the reintegration back into civilian life. And that, again, with veterans as well as first responders. So we're here. Better than anyone, we're a flow-through. Over the period of time that we've been involved with the military, we've ID'd the foundations that we think are doing great work that offer programs across the board. We have equine therapy. We have songwriting programs. There's some great small boutique organizations that are doing unbelievable work, and they're saving, one life at a time. And Charlie wanted to be a boots on the ground boutique organization, and that's what we do. We hit it every day, trying to find those that are in need.
The thing that I love about your organization is men and women, they come out of the military, perhaps after a number of different overseas trips. They serve our country honorably. They come home, and they have clearly issues integrating, some of them tragically. And so you can see the progress when you work with these folks, and you see them, as they're going through the various programs, whether it's the music program or whatever the program is, and you can truly see them as they begin to reacclimate to life back home. That's got to be, the success stories that you must have must be incredibly inspirational.
Well, I wished I could claim them. It's God's work, not mine. I'm honored to have been, obviously, I spent a half a century with Charlie Daniels, who is a great patriot. And I just like doing what I'm doing. I had no idea of myself after 50 years what I was going to do with my life after Charlie Daniels. And he left me what I consider the greatest gift that I ever received from Charlie, and that's the Journey Home Project. And you know it better than anybody. I live it. I breathe it. I love it. And every time I see a smile on a veteran's face, I'm a joyful guy. It's a great reward.
So people can give, and I'm asking people to follow me and give today, especially today, but anytime. Charlie Daniels JourneyHomeProject.org is the website. Charlie Daniels JourneyHomeProject.org. David Corlew, good luck tonight. I know that it's going to be yet another fantastic event, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, brother. Take care, and God bless.
All right, you too. It is 8:20 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I spoke to a guy last night at the debate party, and doggone it, I wish I remembered his name, but he was a veteran. You'll appreciate this, Johnny. And he walked up to me, and he had Phil Valentine's book, The Conservative's Handbook. And he said that a few weeks or months or whatever it was before Phil passed, he had received that in the mail, and it was signed by Uncle Phil.
Oh, wow.
And he was talking about how much the book meant to him. He was a veteran, and it was great to talk to him, and it was great to hear how much, Uncle Phil and, by extension, WTN meant to him, and conservative values, because we talk about conservative values every day on this radio station, and our values is what connected to him and Uncle Phil. And so it was great to spend a few minutes with him. And the Conservative's Handbook, actually, I have my copy of the Conservative's Handbook. I don't know if you do.
Oh, yes.
You must, obviously.
Yes.
I've got mine, and Phil signed it, and I read it. I've read it already once all the way through, but it was years ago, and I don't pretend to process everything. So I'll probably, I pop it open again every now and again. A lot of that stuff that Phil wrote about, man, it still rings true.
Oh, it does. And he was so good, too, at sending you messages. But shortly after he had passed, I was going through different books, and I found the Conservative's Handbook when I opened it up. The first page, for Johnny B., you make radio fun.
Aw.
Man, it just, that just touches me every time I see that.
Well, and Phil, the other thing that I've noticed, not to go on, but the other thing that I noticed is that with this particular guy yesterday, this veteran yesterday at the event, Phil had personalized the signature for him too.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the things that Phil always did, is he understood how people felt about him. And so he understood. He was very gracious. He appreciated that feeling that people had about him, the appreciation that his fans had for him and have for him. And so he always personalized it.
And he's always Uncle Phil.
And he's always Uncle Phil. That's exactly right. Anyway, I loved meeting. We had several veterans there last night, and loved speaking to each and every one of those guys and women as well. And if you can, please give to the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project.org. That is where you can find more information. And always great to speak to David Corlew.